You are listening to the Gritty Podcast, where we talk about all things gritty. All right, folks, welcome to the Gritty Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Call. I got my friend Brad Hunt behind the camera here. We just got back from another late season hunt. I did a gear dump before I left, and where I showed you kind of what I was going to use on the hunt and my plans for the hunt. As the temperatures get colder and colder, what we bring and how we hunt, gear-wise, kind of changes and shifts. Plus, we go on these trips, it's fresh in my mind right now, what worked and what didn't work. You have all these intentions, plus gear that you're testing, and theories and ideas, and then you go and you implement them, and you come back and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this from now on. This was a really good move. This was not so much. So what we're going to go over today is what I actually carried on my back that I have in my pack right now, and what I thought worked and what didn't work. And I'm going to try to do it as quick as I can, because some of this will be, I'm going to try to avoid this being kind of a repeat of what I just did. I think this is going to be well worth the listen or the watch, mostly watch. If you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify or something, go ahead and probably tune into the YouTube channel and watch the video, as this is kind of a visual type of episode. Okay, so I think one of the things I want to get into right away is weight. How much did my pack weigh? How much does my gear weigh in general? Because we didn't have a scale the last time I did the discussion. So look, this is everything I just took with me on the trip. So I'm going to go ahead and weigh it right now in front of you guys and start going over the weights for what I actually carried with me into the backcountry on this latest hunt. And then we'll get into a little bit more, like I said, on the actual gear and how it performed. So the only difference right now between what I took and what I have in this pack is that this is a little bit different pack. So on the last hunt, I took my Stone Glacier 7900, right, Brad? And I was kind of testing that out. It had been a while since I used it. Wanted to compare and contrast it to my experience with an initial ascent. Brad also used the Stone Glacier 7900 instead of his Eberly stock. What's the one you...
Vapor 7500.
Okay, so he uses the Vapor 7500 from Eberly stock. It's got like an aluminum external frame.
Yeah, so that's the main frame that you can attach many bags to.
Okay.
But I usually run the 7500 with they call it the LP1 fanny pack /
You've modified it a little bit with parts and pieces to get it how you like. Yep. Some people mentioned, hey, Brian, take the initial ascent lid and throw that on your Stone Glacier pack, and you'll like it a lot more. As that's one of my complaints about the Stone Glacier kind of setup. But I'm going to go back to using the initial ascent on this next trip. Basically, we haven't finished out. We still have mule deer tags and elk tags for late season. We just put in almost 14 days just grinding it out, and we're going to head back. We got about 3 days before we head back and try to get one of these tags filled. So far, it's been a difficult season, but that's kind of how it is until you really hit the rut, which is the great equalizer. When you can get into a hunt, and even if it's a subpar unit, kind of public land over the counter type situation, the rut is the great equalizer. If you can get remote, get away from other people, and there's decent genetics, that rut is magical, can be magical. And so that's what we're doing. But back to the gear. This is my initial ascent. This is a prototype pack. So I'm not going to get too much into that because it's not on the market yet, but probably will be at some point in the near future. But one thing I want to touch on packs, Brad, you used the 7900 from Stone. I used it on this last trip. I'm going back to this one. What I'm learning with a lot of these packs, top tier packs, is I don't necessarily feel like there's this clear winner, one that just dominates the rest. Each pack I use, I'm giving up some benefits that I like on the other one, gaining some from this one and back and forth. And at the end of the day, what it really boils down to is your own anatomy, how you're built, what you like, combined with your priorities based on what your preferences are. And Brad and I both got to use the 7900. You're also, I'll say this, people tend to like what they're used to. Mm-hmm. So if you're really, really used to a certain pack and you've been using it for a long time, when you switch, your initial thoughts might be, I don't like this thing, only because it's unfamiliar. That's why I think you got to use it a lot before you really make a decision, you know? And so Brad got to really compare his Everly stock performance to the Stone. And it'd been a while for you since that kind of happened. And Brad had some distinct opinions on how the two compared against each other. And there's definite winners on each side overall. So anyway, we'll get into packs and discussions on packs in more detail, comparing over time. But you know, without us really testing them on these 10, 12-day hunts on multiple trips, you really can't, I don't think you can make a really informed decision. Not only that, you got to have successful hunts. You got to kill, you know, you got to pack out meat along with doing your hunt. And because if your pack never exceeds 70 pounds in total load, and you do a bunch of hunts and you don't kill an elk or anything like that, you don't have to really put it up around 100 or 120 or 140 pounds. To me, you can't really make an informed assessment on that pack being a good backcountry hunting pack. Like, whether it's a hunting pack or just a backpacking pack are totally different things, because you can, as we'll go over the weights on these bags, you could hunt all season, not kill anything, and feel like you got a great backpack. But once you really do like expedition style 10 or 12-day hunts and you have a lot of food, if you have to climb to high peaks and you got to bring the water with you because there's no water at the top of these things, so you got to bring, 10 liters to the top, and water weighs, like, all of a sudden now you're talking 90-pound loads for certain stints on your hunt, plus when you kill and you pack out. We'll get into weights right now. Let's just jump into that and we'll talk about that. So right here, weighing this pack, the way it's loaded at this moment, it's about 35 pounds. So 35 pounds is what this pack weighs. It has everything that I took on the last hunt in it. It does not have, the one thing it does not have inside the pack is the food, and there's no water. That's just to put context around it. So 35 pounds is what I got. Everything in the top lid on this right now is the same as that gear dump I did the other day. Nothing to really talk about there. This is the, I think, I do like the access and the way this top lid works. I can get into it real easy and find what I want very quickly. Big old zipper. It accommodates more gear as well. And so that's a benefit that I like about this initial ascent. Okay. So 35 pounds for the pack. Let's talk about water. Brad, we figured out what water weighs.
I believe 3 liters, which are like the hydro pack seekers that we use. Mm-hmm. They're like 8.1 pounds, I believe, each, for, like I said, 3 liters of water. Okay. And we're packing 3 to 4 of those, so 12 to 9 to 12 liters plus your bottle.
Right, but you're saying it's 8 pounds a liter
for a bag. For the 3 liters would be 8.1 pounds. So you're adding, if you have 3 of those, you're adding 21 pounds of weight. Yeah. 16 to 21 pounds of weight, depending on.
Well, 3 times 8 is 24.
Okay, sorry. Yes, you're right. Sorry. Correct.
And I'm not very good at math.
I went 2 to 3. So yes, 3 to 4 is your 24.
Yeah, 16 to 24 pounds. Let's say it's 3 liters. Mm-hmm. 24 pounds, it's 3 liters is 8 pounds.
Yep.
Okay, roughly, or one HydroSeek bag. And I'll pull one out so you guys can see it. So every time you add water and you fill a full bladder, you're adding 8 pounds to your pack. You bring 2 of these, which is most of the time, we bring 2 of these onto the mountain. So this 3 liter bag right here basically is 8 pounds. And so when you add 2 of these, that's 16 pounds. So my pack basically goes from 35 pounds to 50 pounds when I add water. That's a big difference. I mean, 35 pounds to 50 pounds. Usually though, on our mountain hunts, we can get water at least somewhere near the summit, you know. If not, we have to fill up down low. If there's snow as the season progresses, we can just melt snow at the top and we don't have to pack that weight. But keep that in mind. So water has its weight, food has its weight. But 35 pounds, and then the water is 8 pounds per 3 liters, roughly. Okay. So I didn't carry water in, really, on this last trip until we actually had to climb like 2,000 feet. Mm-hmm. And so for 2,000 foot climb, we filled up at the bottom, and we went from, you know, basically the base weight of this pack being 35 pounds. You added 24, let's just say 25 pounds just for, plus my water bottle as well, which I'd filled, but let's say 25 pounds for easy math. You're talking 60 pounds, a 60 pound pack.
And that's before your food included.
And then the food is, I know some guys get their food down to 2 pounds a day, but we're really at 2.3 or 2.5 pounds a day.
Mine up, I'm almost 2.2.
Okay, so let's just do some quick math, and let's say it's 2.3 pounds per day. 2.3 times 10, 23 pounds. So we're 60 pounds with all the water, and 10 days of food is another 83 pounds. Okay. That does not include one last item, which is my weapon. Okay. And I'll grab that right here. Here's my weapon. Okay. This is the newer Weatherby 338, which, by the way, is incredibly sweet. We use these to hunt moose in Alaska. I've got this VX6 Leupold scope on here, and we'll weigh this here in just a second. But you've got this rifle with the short barrel, and I love this thing. 225 grains is Barnes bullets. What are they?
They're the
TX
TTSX ballistic tip.
Thank you, Brad. And but the fact that this is a short barrel too, it's just so nice. But I'll just weigh this right now, and we're at 83 pounds, like I said, with 10 days of food and our water for the climb. And when I do this on the scale here,
and we have double checked, the gun is unloaded.
I'll put it behind the trigger guard here.
Yeah.
It's which I thought is right at 6 pounds, just 6 pounds and a couple ounces. So 83 plus 6, 89 pounds, roughly. Let's say 90 pounds. So that's, you got to realize though, this is 90 pounds, and I've got my bullets and everything kind of in there as well, 10 shells, plus a few in the chamber when I start hunting. And so you're looking at a 90 pound load once you add water. Okay. But if you remove water from the equation, that's 25 pounds less. And
about 70 pounds for
65 pounds. Mm-hmm. You're about 65 pounds. So, and then as you eat your food every day, you're dropping 2.3 pounds each day. So after 2 days, you've lost 5 pounds almost of weight. So from 65 to 60, 55, and every day you're getting closer to that 35 pound load that you kind of started with. Okay, your base weight. So food and water is just ridiculously, can really add to your load a lot. So how you plan your water situation can seriously decrease how much weight you're carrying. You really can't get your food much below, at least we haven't found, getting it below 2 pounds per day. That's pretty tough to do. I think.
And
get the nutrition and calories that you need for, I mean, you're basically each day, you're working hard physically. So,
how many calories are you running per day?
I don't even know. I would guess between about 3,500.
Yeah. So I'm like, this trip I was like 3,260, I believe is what I was.
Yeah. I think I'm between 3,300 to 3,500. Yeah. Sometimes, some days are higher, some days are lower. But 35 pounds is this weight now. This is with Brad and I sharing a few items. So in here, I'll just empty it really quick. The other thing, Brad, that we didn't include in this was this optics kit, like binos and rangefinder. And this is on my chest, not on my back. But nevertheless, it is something that you're bringing, that your body is carrying, and this is 3.5 pounds or 4 pounds. So there is that as well. I don't generally include it because it's not in my backpack, but it is weight that you do carry. But real quick, I'm going to go through what's actually in the pack. So right here, I used these on the last trip, which was hand warmers, foot warmers. These are toe warmers. These are the full footbed foot warmers, and then here are the hot hands super body warmers. So I had enough to have at least one hot hand per day and a toe warmer and a foot warmer per day, because I had worn on the trip these crispy Laponia 2.0s, and these boots are not insulated at all. But with the amount of hiking and stuff that we did, I just didn't really want to have hot, sweaty feet on during the hikes. But when the temperatures got in the teens, my toes were frozen. But all I had to do was take one of those footbed, and I put it on the top of my foot. Stick it. There's an adhesive. You peel it off, and you stick it on the top of your foot. And if I was really cold, I could add a toe warmer there as well. And then I can put my boot on. I'm not standing on the foot warmer, so it doesn't impede my hiking ability and all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't create blisters or hot spots. The heat is coming across the top of my foot, and especially around my toes. And with the full length footbed on those super cold days, seemed to work quite a bit better than the toe warmers alone. And so I would run this, like I said, this full length one kind of on the top of my foot. If we were going to be sitting in glassing all day and it was extremely cold, I went ahead and put this and the toe warmer in my boot. And I had enough heat, external heat source from this stuff to keep my feet warm in these uninsulated boots. Quite nice, actually, quite comfortable. If we were going to hike a lot, and yet it was so cold, it was still in the teens and my toes were still getting cold, but I knew I was going to sweat a lot, then I would just run a toe warmer. And that seemed to be just enough for a 7-mile day where I still want a little bit of heat in my boot, just at my toes, but not overwhelming heat. And so I treated my boots this year as sort of a layering system. I could do no heat source at all, which worked great for certain climbs and hikes and days that were kind of like this, almost t-shirt weather. And then days where it was frigid and ice and below 15 degrees, I could throw these in and get the temperature I wanted. And then we talked about it on an earlier podcast. If we only used them for 2 or 3 hours in the morning and then it just got warm, we would pull them and put them into Ziploc bags, seal them up, and that would sort of preserve them and get them to last longer. Because if you reduce the oxygen coming to the hand warmers and stuff, they will last another like 6 or 8 hours when you're done. The other thing that I did was these toe warmers, they have an adhesive here that you pull off. And so you take them out, you let them get hot, you pull the adhesive off, and I would stick them inside my gloves. And I love using toe warmers in my gloves because I can take my glove like this, okay? Well, I'm glassing, I'm doing things, I don't want anything on the palm of my hand, but I can take that adhesive and I can stick that toe warmer to the back of where my hand would be, right up here, and stick it right on the back. And then I put my hand in here, and my glove is got a heater stuck to the top, and it would keep my hands roasty toasty and comfortable. And then I got
talking between the liner and the inside of the glove, right?
Yeah. So this glove right here has a liner. It's a Gore-Tex liner on the outside. It's got a little bit of felt on the inside as well. And so I would stick it to the Gore-Tex shell.
Yeah, you're not actually putting it where it's like touching your skin.
No, but I went ahead and put it in there where it touched my skin a bunch of times because it's stuck to the top. A lot of times though, I do have the fleece liner on, so the toe warmer is stuck to the top of the glove, and so when I put my hand in here like this, you know, the hand warmer stays right here where I want it because it's stuck there with the adhesive, and then it heats up this Gore-Tex shell, and then I have of course the fleece liner as well if I needed that extra warmth. But one thing I did found, and I knew this to be true, that when the temperatures got below 25 degrees and there's wind, and which is normally the case when you're hunting mule deer on a ridge top that time of year, there's just wind. It's kind of unavoidable, and it's icy. And man, it goes back to, even though these are thick gloves, heavy duty, they worked great in Alaska for moose because it's pouring rain. It's 30 degrees, 33. It's sleet and snow, and it's really wet as it is. But up where we're mule deer hunting, it's almost frigid, ice cold, no moisture in the air, and windy. And because these work so well in the river, rowing and doing stuff when I was in moose country. I mean, they're just kind of hard to beat. But then you get up here where it's icy cold on the top of a mountain, and everything's dried up and frozen. Man, my fingers just got cold, even though my palm of my hand in the back of my hand is being heated by these hot hand warmers in there, or toe warmers. It's like my fingers still got cold, quite a bit cold. And so I'd suck them back into the glove a little bit. So I didn't even have my fingers in there, and I'd glass. And then when I needed to use my finger, I'd just snug them up in there, rotate my focus knob, and then I'd scooch them back down. But it just goes back to mittens are king. Mittens are king when it comes to those deep cold temperatures. And I loaned those to Brad on the trip. But if you take a mitten instead of this glove, and you do the same thing, but instead you put that toe warmer, you stick that adhesive right at the top in the front of your Gore-Tex mitten, above your fingers, not on the palm, but above them. Then you just slip your hand in and out. It's just so warm. Your fingers are always warm, and you don't really need your fingers when you're doing hours and hours of glassing anyway, and stuff. So it goes back to these got the job done, but mittens still are king when it comes to just staying warm. And so I'm likely to use these a ton in those cold, wet temperatures like in Alaska. But when it gets icy cold and it's 15 degrees, I'd rather have mittens for that hunt. So late season mule deer, I lean more toward mittens. For nasty wet Kodiak and northern moose and stuff, when it's wet cold, I love these gloves. But once that temperature gets real low and it's icy cold and windy, man, mittens. So anyway, that's my strategy for keeping my hands and feet warm. I've moved ahead to packing these on a lot of trips. I have a set for every single day. And they're kind of a luxury, but also, you just don't want cold feet and hands. To me, they're well worth the weight to bring, which isn't that much weight. I mean, as I said, my pack is 35 pounds base weight. I'll deal with that, whatever those ounces are. So right here, back to what's in the pack. I think otherwise, the only other thing, because I have the Seek Outside stove in here. I'm just going to pull out. These are just the same stuff I showed you before. I have in this pack, except I don't have the tent, the shelter. That's the only thing that really is not in this backpack when I did my gear dump on the earlier show. So I have my Seek Outside stove in here. We took the large U-turn, the pipe. I have all that in here. I have the cook stove as well. I have the mini mow right here, and I have the gas and the fuel right here. So pretty much everything is in here, okay, that I had from before, minus the shelter. So Brad has the weight of the shelter. I carried the cook stove and the titanium stove, and we kind of balanced that out. So when I say 35 pounds, I should probably say more like 41 pounds because of the rifle, being the base weight of this whole thing. Now, Brad could end up carrying the cook stove and the teepee. That way, if I carry the titanium wood stove and the pipe, we're more equally weighted, but you can split up with your buddy, your loads, because you don't need two shelters. You don't need two cook stoves. You don't need, you don't necessarily need two solar panels, although it depends on how much electricity you're going to be using for your phones and all that kind of stuff, which we used a lot. But anyway, so 35 pounds is my pack, 6 pounds is my rifle. Food is 2.3 pounds per day. Water is basically 8 pounds per 3 liters. Does that kind of get the weights? Mm-hmm. And so we could go from anywhere from, with your food, 40, 50, anywhere from 60 pounds on day one of a 10-day hunt up to 90 pounds, depending on water, right? And then every day you're out there, your base weight of 60 pounds drops by 2.3 pounds a day as you consume your food. So by the time you finish how many day hunt? Like a 10-day hunt. By the time you finish it, people are like, well, how do you pack the deer out of the backcountry? Like, what happens? Well, you get down to that 35 or 40 pound weight roughly. Let's say you use your hand warmers as well. You lose maybe a pound in those and stuff. So by the time you're done, let's say I'm 40 pounds with rifle, bullets. I've shot a few. So 40 pounds. Okay. I'm at 40 pounds. And I have no food left really, because we ate most of it, and no water. How much does a deer weigh? Okay. That's a question that a lot of people ask. I think around 70 pounds, 75 pounds. By the time you debone it, get it into your game bags, take the hide and stuff. I'm not bringing the cape out generally on these big hunts. Lampers and I rarely pack a cape unless for some reason we're just close to where we need to be. But if we're 20 miles in, we're not packing capes out generally. So you got the skull, and we've removed the lower jaw. We've cleaned all the meat off of it. It's just the horns, and then it's just the meat deboned. You're somewhere around 75 pounds, let's say. And it can be give or take, So when you have that much weight, you got your 40 pounds plus, 75 pounds, that's 115 pounds, which is about right. Like when we get back to the truck and we've weighed our packs, they can weigh anywhere from, I think, 110 to 120, 125. Like that's kind of about what our pack out weight is. It can be 110, roughly, depending on the size of the buck and everything. 115 is kind of spot on generally with about the loads that we're packing. So, it's doable for us, you know. I mean, we put about 115 pounds on our back and we waddle our way out over 10 miles, you know, for 12 miles, however far back we went to get the deer. And we take our time, you know, when we come out, you know, we go a few miles and take our time, pick our way through. And if we get tired, then we set up camp, we give it a rest, and we go the rest the next day, and we make our way out. A lot of times, because we climb those summits so high to get to where the mule deer are migrating and rutting, that when we come out, you know, it's a lot of it is downhill. It can be very technical and off trail, most of it, because you're going down some rock slides and stuff. But I mean, as long as you can go downhill, it's quite a bit easier, at least for me. For this hombre, it's easier. So, Brad, I know there's some things.
The pickaxe.
Oh, so we kind of mentioned this before. There is a pickaxe on my pack, and it's included in the weight. Mm-hmm. This is, I think, 8 ounces. It's about 8 ounces, maybe 6. I can't remember. And this is the Petzl Ride. And
was it worth the trip?
Dude, these mountain hunts on these steep, it was worth every ounce. Every ounce. We used it like mad. I mean, it was so useful. So I can see myself bringing this on almost all those steep mountain hunts, because you can carve out so many flat spots for you to pitch a teepee in a spot where you think you could never put one. It might take you a half hour. It might take you an hour. One spot we dug out, we were going to dig in there for 3 or 4 days. We knew, so we took the time. It took us about an hour, me and Brad, to chop it out, get a flat spot and a nice area. But we really we cut like 24 inches down into the hillside and then flattened it out. So the pickaxe was money. It was very useful. The other thing that I should bring up is the Origin jacket. A bunch of people asked me about this. You know, I've gone over my socks before. I've gone over the ankle braces. These are Sweeto universal braces. I actually used them quite a bit on this last trip. Some trips I don't, but it was just so steep and rocky. And it was 12 days, not just 10, it was 12. And I just found myself needing that extra support. My ankles got a little bit sore over time. I've had a bad ankle. I broke both ankles in my younger years and had to wear a cast for months and rehab and do a lot of physical therapy. And so I have really shaky ankles sometimes. So it was nice to put those on. And then I just wore these, like I said, these crispy Laponia 2.0s, and these, and it just worked great. So the gaiters are legit as well. Like, man, I just love the gear that we're running right now. But back to this Origin jacket. So I brought this jacket. I wasn't sure. I thought, well, I'll test it. I'll use it and I'll see what I think. And it's USA made. The fellows over there are really trying to bring manufacturing back to the United States. This is I forget what it's called. It's like their wool, shadow wool or something like that. And so I grabbed this thing. It's like 50% merino and 50% polyester. And I wore this thing 24/7, like all day, every day. And I found that I freaking love it. No, I'm being dead serious. Like, there's such a wide comfort rating in this wool where, temperature wise, it can be super cold and I'm like, I should put on another layer, but I'm still warm. Or I can be really hot climbing up a summit and I'm like, I should take this off, but it's venting, it's breathing. Like, it's very, very comfortable in a wide range of temperatures. And for someone who sweats as much as I do, depending on my exertion level, I'm always having to stop and take something off or put something on. And this, I was like, dude, this kind of hits a big range, so I could just wear it and not even worry about anything else. I like that it's wool because it seemed to, I get snowed on and rained on, and I didn't even bother like worrying about it getting wet. I in fact wanted to test it to see how it would feel. And as it got wet and wet and wet, it didn't matter. I couldn't even tell it was wet. And it was warm. Now I didn't let it get soaked, but I mean, it would snow for an hour and I just glass through it and just let it hit me, and it just seemed to go nowhere. So I really liked it. I would throw this on, and then I would throw this Kuiu. I'd layer up. If it got cold, then I could throw on this. It's just this Kuiu vest, and this is the Super Down Ultra. It weighs nothing. Like it's like almost weightless, and it folds into nothing. And so I could put on this wool and wear it 90% of the time, but if I wanted a little bit more insulation, but still wanted some good airflow, like on the arms and stuff, I would just throw this down piece on. And I'm like, oh, that's really warm. That's pretty dang nice. And then the last thing that I did was, if it got colder still, and I felt like, oh, I don't know if I can, I'm a little cold. I want to put on something warmer. Let's see if it's in here. I put on, so I got this. This is the Stone Glacier. What do they call this?
Not sure. Puffy.
The Stone Glacier Puffy. It's like, it starts with a G or something. Grinnell or.
Down.
But
Grinnell, yeah.
So I would put this over the top of the whole thing, and then with this layering is like I was done. I didn't need anything else. For the most frigid temperatures they could throw at me, this was comfortable right here. I think it's important to have a puffy with a hoodie. So I hadn't used the Stone in quite a long, like 3 years or something. And so I was kind of curious. Ryan uses it all the time. A lot of times Ryan will actually bring 2 of these for those really cold. So you put this on, then you put another one right on the outside of that. And it's like that way he can just layer according to his needs. The jacket weighs almost nothing. And it again gets super compact. Now, the thing with this Kuiu and this Stone stuff, like this will get down to the size of a pop can, right? So the weight to warmth ratio that can be provided by puffies is uncomparable, unbeatable. Like this is just, and it goes even smaller once you stuff it. It has a stuff sack, you can put it in there. And same with this down vest. Problem is, almost never can I hike or move much when I wear this stuff. Even the vest. If I wear this vest and we hike like 200 yards up a hill, I got to take it off. I mean, it's like wearing a plastic bag. It's so warm. A little bit of body heat and it's like a heater. So that's where this wool from Origin really came into play. It was like the perfect movement jacket, exertion, sweat, climb, but also when I decided to just stop and sit still and glass for a while. Also, you can tell from the outsides of these, like you're always being real careful because this stuff is meant to be so lightweight, but you can see how it just can get ripped and the holes in it. Ryan's jacket has stickers all over it. My Kuiu, same thing. Like you're gonna get little feathers popping out when you get little holes in it, and then you're putting tenacious tape and such over the top. But this jacket, it's like durable. I can lay on the rocks on the ground. I just lay down in the dirt and I thrashed it. I mean, the whole point of something like this is to test it out. I beat the crap out of it, thrashed it, used it heavily, and didn't worry about like popping a hole in it or tearing it. And we were going through brush and I was just like, normally I'd have to take off a layer or something. So yeah, I freaking loved it. I loved it. I liked this Origin jacket a lot. I like the cut too. A lot of times, you know, you get something, you're not a fan of the cut. I like the hood. I like the cut. I like the zip up as well. I don't like pullovers. I don't want to have to deal with that. I like to put my arm in, zip it up, you know. I also like to vent it if I'm hot, and I can do that with this. So I found it to be really nice. I'm actually super impressed. It made me think, man, all the last few years as I've gotten away from a heavier garment and more wool style stuff, how much comfort I'm leaving behind. So I can get away with wearing just a merino top, which this is the Mountain Ops. I've been wearing this for 4 or 5 years now. This is just a merino hoodie top. It's comfortable. Lots of companies make something like this. You can get it just from just about anywhere. I like this Mountain Ops one. This is probably going on 3 years of use. I beat the crap out of it, but I can get away with wearing that and throwing puffies on. And then, but there's that in between phase where it's 20 degrees outside and I got to climb up a mountain and I'm either really cold, my arms are freezing to death, but I still have my vest on and I'm getting pretty hot and sweaty in my chest, but I'm not warm everywhere. But this wool kind of from Origin kind of filled the gap. So I like it. Ryan and I debated the merits of it. He has a pullover merino wool that he has been using for quite a while and never leaves at home. And it weighs a little bit less than this, but it's a pullover, no zipper, different cut, not as long. But they kind of both accomplish the same. They're for the same purpose. They fill that gap between those super cold moments, but where you got to move a lot. And you got that wide, like I said, temperature range of comfort where you can be exerting a lot of heat and it breathes, or you can be standing still and it should be getting quite cold, but yet it keeps you warm. So it's an impressive piece of gear. I'm pretty happy with it. So that was a question you all asked. A bunch of people asked about it. The other thing too is if you haven't checked out Origin and you're pro-America and you want to see less involvement with China, less manufacturing done overseas, check out what Origin is doing, because they're working hard to, like, I don't think people who aren't into manufacturing realize the equipment you need to make a garment like that. It doesn't really even exist here. Trekking poles, you want to make trekking poles in the United States? You can't. They don't offer, we don't have the equipment to create a carbon shaft like this. It does not exist here. You want a metal tumbler like what Yeti puts out and stuff, that you don't have the manufacturing capability in the United States if you wanted to. So much of what is being made right now, we just don't possess the capacity to make anymore, because the machines and the equipment that was used to do that is long gone. So a lot of this stuff is made overseas, and then the government itself has, I think, done a poor job of basically forcing companies into not manufacturing here, because through tax incentives and tariffs and such regulations, it's cheaper in a lot of ways to just buy the finished garment than it is to buy the fabric and build it here, because of the taxes on the material if you just bought it, if that makes sense. So check out Origin. Let's just edit all that out. Let's just redo that whole thing, because that's irritating. So if you want to, the thing about Origin and manufacturing in the United States, if you want to create something in the United States, a lot of our manufacturing capability is flat out gone. And I don't think a lot of folks realize what that means. You can't just go out and create this garment. The guys at Origin had to find some old relics of machines to actually sew and manufacture the material and build it and make it in the United States. something like this trekking pole, you can't do it here. The carbon shaft, we don't even possess the machinery and the equipment and the gear to manufacture such an item. Like Yeti tumblers and anything made out of metal like that, again, you can't make it here. We don't possess the tools, the machinery, the know-how, any of that stuff. We gave it up back in the 90s or before through government policy primarily, where we shipped all of our manufacturing overseas. And we became this sort of information and entertainment economy, and we got away from our own ability to be self-reliant and produce our own equipment. So all of our machined stuff, all of our gear that's being produced, it's being produced in other countries, from Vietnam and China and South America. And, you know, I think a lot of that was just out of this idea that we want to save our environment, and manufacturing has this sort of image of polluting everything. And so our government officials thought it would be great to make you, to kill those businesses here and incentivize you to spend the money in another country where they can just pollute over there without any rules or regulations like we have. And so if you want to manufacture something here, the government has made it so cost prohibitive in terms of tariffs, in terms of equipment that you want to get your hands on, EPA and other types of restrictions, all the permits, the cost of wages, like everything they do, they try to make it so it doesn't make sense. So what Origin is trying to do is achieve some manufacturing in the United States that gets past all that stuff. All of the government idiocy that's out there that has sort of prevented us from being self-reliant in terms of our manufacturing. So I like supporting what they're doing. So check that stuff out. You know, if you're gonna get something like a merino jacket like that, get it from Origin.
Lastly, Timberline pants. You ended up not taking them.
Yeah, so I talked about, which I got mocked by Ryan, but I didn't even bring it in my pack. It was a day that I was just in a mood, and I wasn't sure what pants I was going to bring on this hunt to, you know, late season. I was kind of like, normally what I do is, I've said this before, my favorite pant is the Katana pant, and I need to test some new pants. I haven't. You know, Origin sent me a pair of pants. I got some Sitka has come out with some stuff, but I do love these Katana pants. They don't stretch out much over time. I like the vent zips on the side with the mesh. You know, Stone has a great pant. Ryan's been wearing that for a long time. But I decided, you remember how I said, well, I don't know if I want to wear the Timberline because it's so cold and it's nice to have a little heavier weight pant. But then you have days like this where it can feel like it's in the 70s, and you got now this hot pant. There's no layering capability. Back to layering being king for efficiency and stuff and comfort. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna go ahead and bring these Kuiu Katana. That's gonna be the pant I'm gonna wear. But recognizing that I want to layer up or down a little bit depending on how cold it gets, because it can be miserable. I was like, I think this is the perfect weight. And it turned out to be the perfect weight pant for those hot days. We're hiking, I can vent them, can climb. And we covered 12 miles in a day, sweating our butts off on a hot day. It was so nice to have a thin, lightweight boot that was breathed and pants for those. And then layer up, like I said, with the hot hands, hot warmers, whatever. And layer up with, in the case of the pants, guys at Origin, you might not like this, but I went ahead and I got a pair of, I don't like long johns much. I know Kuiu makes a pair that you can kind of take on and off.
First Light.
Do they? Oh, it's First Light?
Does the zip on and off.
So you don't have to take your pants all the way off. You can kind of work your way around them. But what I did was I got these Origin long johns, and they're like a blend. And I was like, you know what? I don't like long johns for the fact that they're a little bit too warm. These are 25% wool, 25% Tencel, and 50% polyester. But man, I put these on. The wife cut these into shorts. and sewed them here at the bottom real quick. And I got these, and a few days when it was super cold, I wanted the option of having just a little bit thicker layer, but I didn't want to bring the full Timberline pant. They were heavy, like a pound or something. Well, I threw these on, and then I'd throw those pants over the top. And then they still had the vent zips to let it breathe a little bit if I needed to. And on a few of those 15, teens, in the teens temps, it was nice to have just this little bit of layer underneath these. Now the downside is you have to strip your clothes down to get any kind of long john off. So when it does get hot later in the day, it's like, man, I got to take my boots off and undo it and take my pants and take everything off and then strip down to just these. So I only needed these on a few occasions, but I'm sure glad I had them, and I won't leave them behind on much of a future hunt. For one, it almost was like a towel too, and it was nice to have that. And then I throw it in the rafter of the teepee and it dry out from the titanium wood stove pretty quick. But also, we got drenched. Like the group of us got we were soaked to the bone through all our gear. Even our backpacks got wet. And I had this, and I had this. This is another item that I brought with me, which I talked about in the other podcast. This is from Origin as well, which is, again, like another, it's kind of like the Sitka Apex hoodie. It's like a blend. It's a merino type thing. I really like this. I brought this. So if my merino from Mountain Ops, got a little bit, sweaty, I could just ditch it and I could quickly replace it with this dry one. Or if I wanted to, I could layer up a little bit to I could double layer merino. So I could wear this with this one underneath. And so I had 2 layers of merino basically for those cold days, but where I'm moving a lot, and they both breathe really well, but keep just a little bit of warmth in there. And I love the hood here. And super comfortable, but I think their face mask is one of the best. Because a lot of the Sitka ones that I have, I don't like how tight they are on my face. This one's like nice and loose and comfy. My beard has plenty of room inside. So I wore this. So when we got drenched to the bone, I whipped these suckers out, and I whipped this out, and I walked around in these underwear and this top for about 3 hours, bone dry, in just my boots, while we set up the tent, got the fire going. I threw it down over it, and it was nice to have these as backups for soaking wet. And then I drenched this with sweat after it pulled to the top, and we start glassing. I just take that off, and I'll throw this Origin one on instead. And then that night, this would hang in the rafter of the teepee again and dry out. Anything got too wet. So I liked having this, these pieces added to sort of the kit that I brought with me. Do I need these? No, but they were sure nice. I mean, I could get away with not having them, but I ended up sleeping in these a lot when my pants got soaked, because a few times we'd walk through rivers and you get water and your pants will get, or snow, and your pants will get a little bit wet. It's like pretty wet down here, or you just sweat around your waist, and my pants would be sweaty. Well, if I only have the one pair, that's what I got. I'm stuck with that. But I'd usually climb in my sleeping bag with these wet pants, wet around the ass, wet around the legs and the bottom, and I'd just climb in my tent and get in my sleeping bag and just kind of try to dry them out. Or I'd wear them next to the stove and try to dry them out. But it was nice to simply shuck them, put on my little bottoms here, and throw my pants in the rafters of the teepee up high in the teepee, and just let the heat from the stove dry them out. As we hung out, I have to wear wet pants in my sleeping bag to try to get them dry. It doesn't weigh hardly anything. So, I mean, between these two pieces, I mean, I found it added tons of comfort without a lot of weight. I also have this, I have my rain gear. This is the Sitka Dew Point. I've talked about that before. Like I said, this merino top katana pants, that's kind of the gaiters from Peaks. These are indestructible. Wore these a ton. So the only other thing that, Brad, that I probably should mention is, on the socks piece of it, where did I put those? Oh, they're here. I mentioned that. So, here are some cannibalized, like tall knee-high socks where I cut the foot off, and I will pull these on like a leg warmer. And I'll wear that here. And then when I have these, shorts, if I was wearing these from Origin underneath my pants, I have these under my katanas, and I have this stretched out up to the knee, and it's just a little thermal layer underneath my regular pant for when it was real cold. The thing I like about this is I don't even have to take them off. I can just shove them down to the bottom of my ankle, and they just bunch up at the bottom, and so in a way it's like taking off long johns without actually having to take your pants off. They go around my ankle about like that, and let a lot of coolness land on the leg and stuff. And that's actually what I wear a lot, every day almost. And I just hike them up or hike them down if I want a little extra warmth. But like I said, then I could wear these too. If I was wearing long johns, there's no way I can add a little coolness by shoving the sock down. With your long john, you're kind of stuck with it tied to the rest of your pant. You can't shuck it down, and so you just have to take your pants off and take your long johns off if you want to cool off. But it is nice to just, I just kind of quickly open the gaiter here. I come in here and I take this sock, and I'm just like, yeah, let's just push it down here like that. Leg is open. I quickly close it up again, and I'm back in business. So that I actually really like running that way. Another thing that I haven't talked about in a while is gaiters. When you got your gaiters on and it's super rainy, and you don't have rain pants on, one of the things that often when your boots get wet, and the gaiters are there to keep you from getting water into your boots. If you wear your pants on the outside of your gaiter instead of on the inside, as you get wet here, and as the rain comes down and it wicks the moisture down, it goes over the top of your gaiter and over your boot, and your pants get soaked, but they were going to get soaked anyway. But the benefit is if it's tucked into your pant like this, and then you've got all this rain coming down, it wicks moisture down into here, and then it hits your sock, and then it wicks down your sock and into your boot. So if you have pants that are getting soaked from on the thighs or the crotch or the waist up or whatever, if you can throw your pant over the top of your gaiter like that, they're fast drying pants anyway. Let them get soaked. But I am bone dry. I am bone dry from here down. Like bone dry. And so it's no big deal for me to just take my pants off and dry them out. And depending on your situation, for some guys, they don't bring boot dryers. They don't have a teepee. They don't have a stove, titanium stove or anything like that. So when their boots get wet, they stay wet for the whole trip. And that's bad. So that's another trick to wear your pants on the outside of your gaiters, and it can really help. So I think that I hope that answers a bunch of questions you guys might have had and gives you a little insight on what was working and didn't work. We use that Peaks teepee, which you could see in some earlier podcasts. And I use the trekking poles here in the rafters. I call them the rafters because now this thing stretches in an X formation. I'll grab the other one here. It stretches in an X formation like this in the teepee. And the stovepipe is kind of coming up the middle, and there's like a mesh net in the top. And I just sling my pants over this and sling my pants over that and a jacket and something that's wet and hang it. And it's just like nice to have this thing up in the peak. It stiffened up the teepee, the peak of the teepee, but it was just the amount of gear when we got soaked, the amount of gear we were able to just hang up high in the peak of the teepee and throughout without having to try to figure out how to use a tripod to do that. Kind of a game changer. Our boots, same thing. We can put them up in that mesh net, plug in the boot dryer from Graxaw, and right away dry them out. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling. I hope that this was useful. Like I kind of went through the weights of the pack, so you guys now kind of have a general idea of what it takes to do a 10-day or 12-day expedition type backpack trip in terms of the loads that you're going to carry. Yeah, I think we're going to head out and try to do some more, get a big muley buck, a couple of them, or an elk, or we have a few tags among us. We can get into more discussions. If you have comments or you want us to cover or dive deeper into some kind of topic, leave the comment in the comment section below of our YouTube videos. We try to read every single one of those and respond. We're going to talk about the 338, this 6-pound rifle. That's with the scope and everything, on another show. That thing is amazing. We use it to hunt caribou and moose, and the performance is crazy. It's kind of our new favorite rifle. If you haven't checked that out, go check that out at Weatherby. If you like the show and you like what we do, and you want to keep supporting us, you can do that a couple of ways. One is check out the our gritty shirts and hats. There's now a merch collection that we finally got going. If you go to briancall.com, you'll see the shop there. Click there and you'll see, like, I think there's decals and shirts, sweatshirts, hats. The hats, I just saw some hats yesterday that my sister and her husband are kind of running that whole thing, and they've been behind the scenes gathering up stuff, and so it's kind of cool. We're getting that launched, so you can support us by buying some gritty merch. But another way to support us is at Peaks Equipment. Use the code GRITTY. If you don't have a Peaks Duo headlamp, highly recommend that. The Gators, the titanium spoon. Everybody needs a spoon. When you shop there, that helps us, as they're a great partner of ours. The trekking poles, if you don't have those, go there. Stealthy Nutrition. Use the code GRITTY over at Stealthy Nutrition. You can get lots of gut health and CBD oil products, sleep products to optimize your health, but also the glassing pads that Stealthy sells, and the rifle covers. This is the glassing pad. I also have this. This is the rifle cover. These are great products that Ryan and Hillary sell over at Stealthy, and use the code GRITTY over there, and that helps all of us keep doing what we love to do. So there's that, and then Mountain Ops. If you use the code GRITTY over at Mountain Ops for some Ignite or Blaze shots or Yeti. They even have Renew for gut health, which I really like that as well. They got lots of cool flavors. And then they also have their Merino hoodie, which I really like and have been using a long time. Any of that stuff, you can use the code GRITTY over there. And again, that supports us, helps us keep doing what we do. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck on your fall hunts, and stay gritty.